But I was looking at the NFL standings this morning, the first place teams. AFC East, best quarterback leads, Josh Allen. AFC North, best quarterback, Lamar Jackson leads. AFC South, best quarterback leads, C.J. Stroud. AFC West, best quarterback leads, Patrick Mahomes. NFC East, I'm sorry, Jayden Daniels throws the ball better than Dak, moves better than Dak, doesn't make the turnovers of Jalen Hurts. He's the best quarterback. Sam Darnold's playing like the best quarterback, although I think Goff or Jordan Love are, but Sam Darnold's playing like the best quarterback. He'd be the highest MVP vote getter in that division as of today as a quarterback. Kirk Cousins leads his division. And by the way, I think Matt Stafford's better than Brock Purdy, but Brock Purdy's good. So pretty simple. It's 1/3 through the regular season. We already see who leads the division. The best quarterback in the division or a really good quarterback playing the best in the division. That's it. And I think 6 games in a career as a quarterback, you're going to see 2 things. Red flags, you see those immediately, red flags, or really excellent traits. Take Jayden Daniels. I mean, Jayden Daniels, super mobile, way above average, really accurate. The coaches loved Jayden Daniels at LSU. They could not stop complimenting him in camp. Remember that in camp? You never hear a coach and a coordinator gush over a rookie quarterback. They're always like, be patient. It takes time. They were like, this kid's amazing. He's amazing. Everybody loves him. I've seen enough. Jayden Daniels, I don't see any red flags. I see nothing but excellent traits. He's a franchise quarterback.
All right, Washington Commanders. It can't be any more clear than that. Colin Cowherd is saying that Jayden Daniels is a top quarterback in the NFL, clearly. Obviously, he thinks also he's the best quarterback in the NFC East, which is technically the first battle, right, for a team and a quarterback, and is a franchise quarterback. So it's not even just saying, hey, these other quarterbacks are bad, and so that's why he's the best quarterback. It's saying, no, like he's better than these other quarterbacks, and he's a franchise quarterback. So that's pretty wild if you think about the path and the quite the journey that the Washington Commanders have been on for the last, you guys know better than me, my God, how far back is this really going, right? And so in terms of, red flags, green flags, and all of that, I do always try to find something negative that I can find, right? Like, because and it's not to be like negative or pessimistic. It's like I just want to be able to get to the most accurate view of something, right? It's what they do in science and research. You're trying to falsify. You're trying to prove your thesis wrong rather than try to prove it right. That's that. Like if you're doing an experiment, you're trying to prove something wrong because that will get you closer to the truth. Right? Because if you're trying to prove something right, you're opening up the door to cause you to be misled, to be confused, to try to, make something that's not really there, right? That's how you become biased, quite frankly, right? And so for me, I try to really zero in, and it's like, okay, what do I like? And that's why all my notes that I always make that I'm looking at, they're scattered all over. I always write all the positives, and then I do look for negatives. And some fans get it, and some fans are like, why are you being so negative? It's like, I'm not being negative. I'm just trying to honestly, accurately convey exactly what I'm seeing, the good, the bad, and anything else in between. And when I try to think of red flags for Jayden Daniels, it's like, I really genuinely can't. I think technically, and I'm like, I don't even necessarily want to say this, but technically you could say he's too thin, right? Technically. But I'm not even so positive that that's even fundamentally an issue, because when you look at these other quarterbacks, although they're bigger than you think, right? Especially if you ever catch them in the, if you ever see them like show a clip of them in the locker room and they're like, with their shirt off or whatever it may be, because on tape, on when you're watching the game, you'll look at Jared Goff and say, oh, he looks so small and skinny relative to, Lamar Jackson or whatever it may be. And then when you see him with the shirt off, you're like, oh, actually, he's actually like, you can tell that he actually has muscle. It's just relative to the other guys who are jacked and monsters on the field, he looks a lot smaller. Kind of like basketball players. Some of these guys, they look so tiny, and then you realize that they're actually like 6'3", 6'4", but they just look so small because everyone else is 6'7", 6'8", and onward. So I don't even think that it's like a fundamental issue. And I'm not going to harp on that too much, honestly, but it's like technically you could say, yeah, I wish he had 10% more muscle on his body, whatever the number is. But I don't really think it's fundamentally an issue because I think he's such a smart player. One, he's going to take care of his body. And two, he knows to protect himself. He knows to get down. And if he ever has to learn that lesson the hard way, which virtually every single quarterback under the sun is going to get hurt, literally everyone. Everyone gets banged up. Lamar, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, right? Every single one of them get banged up. Like, he is the type of person who I strongly believe will continue to learn from all the positives and negatives. And if he reaches the conclusion, I got to protect myself more, he will protect himself more, right? So that is honestly my favorite aspect of Jayden Daniels more than anything is above his shoulders in his head, because I just think from my viewpoint, watching him play, the guy is clearly incredibly smart, right? He's obviously a freak athlete, but he's obviously incredibly brilliant, hardworking. I saw this whole thing about him doing he does a lot of virtual reality type stuff where he's doing a lot of mental reps, so to speak. Like he's putting in all the work, doing all this stuff that he does. Like he has the VR goggles and goes through the plays and the game plans and stuff like that. Like he's so all in on football. And, what more can you ask for, right? Like at the end of the day, you want someone who's going to be a good person. You're going to want someone who's a hard worker, someone who's intelligent, and someone who's great, obviously, right? And it's he's checking off all those boxes, right? Like he doesn't have attitude. He's not overly confident. He's not reckless, either throwing or running for that matter. It's just I want to find something that you could be technically this, just to kind of be okay, I'm making sure that I'm looking at this through clear eyes, through clear lenses. And it's it's hard to find the red flags. And I do think it's okay. This is where I kind of go back and forth a little bit, because it's a delicate dance when you're talking about evaluating a rookie quarterback. In terms of where they stand relative to other established quarterbacks. And that's something that I'm still trying to reconcile with and wrestle with, in terms of how do you rank a quarterback who has only played for 6 games. And we can just keep it to the NFC East, right? And we don't even have to make it larger than that, but just the NFC East, where you have Dak Prescott, who has shown obviously to consistently be a pretty good quarterback. As many of you guys know, I don't think he's this great elite quarterback, but he's proven year after year to be consistently good. You have to give that to Dak. Jalen Hurts has shown, again, whether you want to put it on coaching or whatever, it's irrelevant. He has still shown to be great enough to be in the MVP conversation and get to the Super Bowl and essentially be a play away from winning a Super Bowl, right? And so it's he's proven that. Jayden Daniels has obviously only played 6 games. And yet, watching him play, I'm a firm believer in this. If you were looking at these 3 quarterbacks, and sorry, Daniel Jones, you're just not invited to this party. I feel like if we had these 3 quarterbacks right now, Dak, Jayden, and Jalen Hurts, the vast majority, I'm talking 90+% of people would be picking Jayden Daniels. Even if they knew what these other quarterbacks have already done, they're going to be I know Jayden has only proved what he could do in 6 games. I know he hasn't proved to be able to get to a Super Bowl, be in an MVP conversation. I know he hasn't proved to be able to do this for season after season after season, which is technically always going to be a question mark until you do it, right? So that it is technically fair. I'm going to roll the dice. I'm going to pick Jayden. I'm going to roll the dice, even though I really don't think it's a gamble, right? You absolutely could see that, right? I'm sure the Eagles would be I kind of like what I'm seeing out of Jayden. Maybe if Jalen could be a little bit more like Jayden, we would be a better team. And the Cowboys are oh my God, they got this Jayden guy, and we just gave Dak a 60, what was, I don't know if it was 60, 61, whatever that final number ended up being, but a ton of money, a massive amount of money. And it's like, oh man, we did not see this coming with Jayden Daniels, and now this quarterback's here, and I'm not so sure we have the better quarterback, and we just paid a ton of money, and now the Washington Commanders got arguably a significantly better quarterback who can do more for the team, and they don't have to pay him for the next X amount of years. Right? Like that's a massive head start. It's a massive head start, especially against the Cowboys. Like, it's hard to see the Cowboys being able to move forward successfully. The Giants would have to find their own Jayden Daniels, which Commanders definitely know this. Easier said than done, right? Jalen Hurts either has to completely turn it around, or they will have to move on, and then they will have to find their next Jayden Daniels, which, again, of course, is easier said than done. So I actually talked about this, and I'm actually just kind of remembering this now, because I talked about how earlier on the season, as you guys know, I was obviously very high on the Commanders and high on Jayden Daniels. And I said, this year is going to be about them kind of growing and getting better and kind of righting this ship. And I said, I think that they can win the wild card and get into the playoffs. And, if they can end up winning a playoff game, it can really skyrocket and accelerate the progress and where they are as a team, not unlike what the Houston Texans did last year, winning that playoff game. And then even losing a playoff game, then the next round is really beneficial, right? You got to learn how to lose at the highest moments. It's how you grow. It's how you face adversity. Like, it's important. It was important for CJ Stroud to get beat really good by the Ravens and Lamar Jackson, right? Because then it haunts you a little bit. It forces you to grow, right? Like, it's important. And I kind of made that argument with the Commanders that this is that growing year. And I said it's actually probably kind of perfect for the Commanders, because they're now going to be coming into the next 2-3 years. They're going to be able to ride this wave with the Commanders at the perfect time, when the Cowboys and the Eagles are potentially kind of going down. They're either having to deal with the fact that they have to pay their quarterbacks a ton of money, although the Eagles have made a pretty good deal that has aged well with Jalen. So even if Jalen continues to be the quarterback, they're not really hampered by that contract. But Travis O'Shea, who's a Cowboys fan, has made the argument similar for the Cowboys, but it's still not free, right? Relative to what they're paying Jayden Daniels, which it may as well be free. And so that puts the Commanders in such a more competitive place and a more aggressively. The best place to be is to have a franchise awesome top level quarterback and have him on a rookie deal, while the other teams in your division have to work around with paying their quarterbacks top dollar, right? Like, it's so many more moving parts that they have to figure out. And especially if those quarterbacks aren't playing at top level play, like we see at least Jalen and Dak doing right now. And so the Commanders are in a great position, and they're already obviously leading the division. I wonder how long that will stand. I cannot wait to see the Commanders play both the Eagles and the Cowboys. I don't necessarily think those will be easy games, because they are divisional games. They do know each other. I do think Dan Quinn has the leg up versus the Cowboys. I don't think they'll have that leg up versus the Eagles. Not to say that they won't beat the Eagles, but I think if the Eagles right this ship that they have, I think it's more likely that they split those games rather than either the Eagles going 2-0 or the Commanders going 2-0. Is just what my gut tells me. I think it's possible that the Commanders can go 2-0 versus the Cowboys, not only because I think they're the better team, but also I think having Dan Quinn as your head coach is going to just be a cheat code, essentially. I really, really do. And so again, that just continues to further expedite everything that the Commanders will be able to do this season and onward. So it's like, I'm putting the Commanders, and this will be funny to look back on this, very far down into the future. I'm putting the Commanders on this like 3-year window watch, essentially, where as long as they don't have, bad injuries, cluster injuries, whatever it may be, and especially as long as Cliff Kingsbury sticks around, I'm putting the Commanders on this 3-year window of being like legitimately, and I'm not saying that the window after that it's over or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, within the next 3 years, whether it's this year, next year, or the year after, honestly, less likely this year, but next year and the year after, more likely, that they are going to be competing for NFC championships and Super Bowls, right? Like, they are going to rise. It's just hard for me to see how Jayden doesn't continue to grow and get better, and as well as I feel as though when you have someone like a Dan Quinn, you have coaches that know what they're doing, and there is this new reign in Washington. You're going to make smarter, better moves. You got to hit on some drafts, of course, so which is both skill and luck, quite frankly, and continue to grow, be aggressive, and support your quarterback. And I think that Dan Quinn, because someone asked me this the other day in the comments where they were like, "What do you think about the defense?" And it was like, it's going to take a minute for Dan Quinn to be able to do what he wants, just from a identity standpoint and a practicality standpoint, as well as getting the right personnel. Because and I said this in the comments, like, we see what's happening to the Dallas Cowboys when Dan Quinn left, right? And I know they're dealing with some injuries on that, but that defense has not looked the same. And Micah, you say what you will about him, I don't think he's the best ambassador for the Dallas Cowboys, but he loved Dan Quinn. He was like, Dan Quinn is my guy, like, he loves him. And so, Dan Quinn is a brilliant defensive mind, right? I don't think that's remotely up for debate. People would like to blame him for the loss against the Packers and stuff like that. Dan Quinn is a brilliant defensive mind. And so it's hard for me to imagine that this defense won't become legit within the next 1 to 2 years or so. I believe he will get that defense really back to being a great physical, hard shutdown defense. And again, once you have that, then you're now going to take things off the plate for Jayden Daniels. I mean, it's just going to be a thing of beauty. And I think it then really, it really benefits you when you have a great shutdown defense and a really great run game. And when you do that, you get to just dominate the time of possession in ways that you wouldn't be able to do elsewise. Because if you're a big throwing team, and there's nothing wrong with it, but you can score fast and your defense is back out there, this way you get to really dominate the possession time of possession. And Jayden is obviously a great, unbelievable top-level thrower. So when you dominate defensively and you have the time of possession and you're able to run the ball so much, you're then setting up Jayden to be able to stretch the field in a way that will be like just some of the easiest. It'll just look so effortless. It'll just be done in a way that it will be so effortless. In a lot of ways, similar. I can't believe I almost missed this comparison. Very similar to what you would be seeing with Detroit, right? They're able to just run and pound the ball. It's different because they don't have the same defense, but because of that, there's some games, there's some drives, there's some moments that Jared Goff is just able to just like, here you go, bud. And it's just a thing of beauty. When football can kind of look that easy, sometimes it looks easy. Sometimes it's like, oh, it's just blown coverage, or oh, it's just, this defense is so bad. It's like, no, it's hard work and dedication. And when you have someone now as good as Jayden Daniels to be able to do that, to have some of these easy pitch and catch throws that can just break games wide open while dominating the run game, and also obviously having Jayden to be able to rip off a run, because I think his bread and butter would be 10-yard, 8-yard, 7-yard runs, get out of bounds, slide, and it's just like, you can't stop me. It's like, I'm going to run. I might not book it for a 30-yard run, but there's nothing you can stop me. We're either going to hand it off and we're going to get 5-6 yards, or I'm either going to be able to do pitch and catch and throw a beautiful, nice little ball 10 yards, and the moment you try to shut that down, I'll throw 30. The moment you try to take away my 30, I'm just going to be able to roll out, and I'm just going to be able to run for 6-7 yards out of bounds. Like, it feels like it's childish. It's like, haha, you can't get me. That's literally what I think of when I think about it. It's like, haha, you can't catch me. You can't catch me. It's kids on a playground. It's like, that's what I think the potential is. And there's still moving parts to connect it all together. Make no mistake about it. And it's of course it's easier said than done. But I do believe that is what we will see. And I think it could largely be a hybrid between what we see with the Detroit Lions and the Baltimore Ravens, or honestly maybe even when the Kansas City Chiefs were in their prime, but they didn't have the best defense, and so it'll be interesting. And again, a lot of this also is predicated on Cliff Kingsbury sticking around for another 2 or 3 years, because he is that guy offensively. He absolutely is, just like Ben Johnson is for the Detroit Lions as well. So yeah, I don't mean to go too far into the future, but I just felt since Colin was comparing, trying to talk about how the best quarterbacks win and win their and are winning their divisions, and Jayden being a franchise quarterback, that's just kind of what this made me think of. And again, I don't mean to oversell what the Washington Commanders can be or what Jayden Daniels can be, but I just think if they just get healthy from a health standpoint, which is just honestly health, it's just luck, and they get lucky with a few key draft picks, as well as actually be intentional and aggressive in free agency, yeah, you're talking about building something legitimately special and sustainable. So we'll see how this a lot of my takes have aged very, very, very well with Jayden Daniels and the Washington Commanders. So I don't know, maybe I am a truth seer when it comes. So we will see. Market. I recorded this video. I think this video will post probably on Thursday or Friday. So we'll see. Market week 6 of Jayden Daniels. I guess technically week 7 of Jayden Daniels. Of his rookie year that I said this team is coming. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Washington Commanders and Jayden Daniels? The fact that Jayden is already a franchise quarterback, leading the division, best quarterback in the division, top quarterback in the NFL already, and what the Washington Commanders are building. Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.